Before we begin, if you are looking for a specific part of this video, click on the links below. Hello, I'm Rob Snyder, National Service Manager, and we are here to talk about power pinner and Gripnail feeder bases and how to troubleshoot them. Feeder base springs being damaged or broken can lead to an underperforming feeder base, which leads to poor output on your machine. When the feeder base is working properly, the pin should vibrate and go through the feeder bowl and into the pin track. When the springs aren't working properly, the pins that usually vibrate and move up into the pin track will move more slowly or won't be able to climb the feeder bowl completely. This leads to your track running out of pins in the middle of a job, and no one wants that. Now, when I say springs, I actually mean these things. Spring steel pieces of metal with a hole in each end. Each feeder base is individually tuned with these springs. Today, we are showing the 3 generations of feeder bases. Our first generation model is the square sheet metal base. Our second generation is the round sheet metal base. This base requires a more extensive troubleshooting process than the other two. Therefore, we will not be covering it in this video. Last but not least, the square open with the springs exposed. First, let's begin with the feeder base you'll see on all our current models. This feeder base model number is 42361-7 for our automated pin welders, and the model number 42361-2 for the automated grip nail machines. For the spring thicknesses, a 42505, which is a 3/16 thickness, a 42506, which is a 1/8 thickness, a 42507, which is a 332 thickness, and a 42508, which is a 1/16 thickness. As for tools needed for this job is a 1/4-inch Allen wrench, a screwdriver, flat blade, and a rubber or leather mallet. Now, when you start troubleshooting your feeder base, these are the 4 sets of springs around the outside. Each set of springs will have different thicknesses on, or they could be all the same. It's how they're tuned at the factory. And when you go around and you know your base is slow and not feeding properly, it could be because one of these springs have a crack or is broken completely. Now, to start, you won't want to make sure you only take off 1 set of springs at a time. Inspect them or fix them and reinstall them. You don't want to take them all apart because it'll separate the top and the bottom of the coils. And then you'll have to reset this gap in here, which can be a little difficult. So to save yourself some time and effort, only take 1 set off at a time. Now, I usually go around. If you have a broken or cracked spring, it'll sound different than the other springs. I usually give them a little rap with the wrench to give you a starting place. And if you have like a metallic ring to it, that might mean they're good. If you have like a dull thud, that may be a good place to start looking. So what you want to do, there's screws on each end of these, and they have to be tight. So that's where the mallet comes into play. You want to try to loosen these up. Then you can take these apart. Now sometimes when you take these apart, you'll know right away where is the broken spring, because it's going to come apart in two pieces, and that'll be obvious to tell. Now the important part for this is between each spring and between the last spring and the body of the vibrator base, there was going to be a washer, and those washers have to go back in the way they came out. Usually set them up like this. You want to take your washers, set them out, because you want to put them back together the same way it came apart. Washer, spring, washer, spring. Now you want to go through, and if they aren't in two pieces, you don't see them, they can be cracked and still look like they're good. So what you want to do is go through each one and put a screwdriver in and give them a little flex. If they're cracked, it'll give way. And another little trick is to take and you can ding on them to tell if they get a little metallic ring on it. You'll know they're good. A bad spring will definitely have a dull thud to it. Now you want to keep going through and checking these springs. Oh, there's one right there. That's a bad spring. See, come apart in two pieces. What you want to do is you want to measure the thickness of this spring and replace it with the same size thickness spring. So reassembly of this, you got your new springs in, put them back together, the spring, washers, one of the keys to this is getting these back together. They have to be very tight. And that's all there is. Now, if you would have taken this set apart and find that you didn't find any broken springs, they look good, to the next set and test that set until you go all the way around. I've even had it where it could be just loose bolts, where you go through, you couldn't find anything wrong. I've put them back together, tightened everything up, and they've run a lot better. So that's how you fix a base. It's fairly easy, doesn't take a lot of time once you know what you're doing. Okay, we're going to start on a first generation feeder base. This was on our older machines, going back to our older Gripnail machines, 460s, 448s, machines like that. And this is a little bit different because it has a sheet metal cover on it, and you have to take that cover off. It has a rheostat on the back and a toggle switch, which you can see from the back, but it's a rheostat and a toggle switch, so that if you don't want to unwire that, that can just be laid off to the side while we're doing that, so you'll see. Tools needed for this is a 3/8 Allen wrench, a 7/16 open end or boxed end wrench, a screwdriver, and a rubber or a leather mallet. Get these out of the way. So in order to begin, we have to take this feeder bowl off. So you want to take this off. a screw in the center. Set that off to the side. There's a top cover which comes off. Now this is the top and the bottom of your coil with the sheet metal. Now there are, around the bottom, there's bolts, and there's 10 bolts, and there's only 2 up top holding this end. So we're going to take these off. Okay, now we've gotten to this part. You want to take this. This has the rheostat wires and everything on it. You can just lay this off to the side, take that cover off, put that off to the side. Now you have your full bowl, your full base that you can see. The bowl is off, and I'm going to lean this to the side now. And you can see this is the top of your electrical coil, which and you see your springs are angled, so when it gets a pulse, this electrical magnet coil pulls in and it vibrates. That's what vibrates the pins around. So, and when these springs get broken or worn, they can decrease how much it vibrates. So, like I said, this spring is a 42110. And you can see it's one thickness. This spring only comes in one thickness, and it's one spring. Now there could be some feeder bases that have 2 of these on, and some could just have 1. This one has 1 on every position. And again, it's 4 positions. And you never want to take all 4 off at once. You just want to take and check them to see if they're broken or cracked. And if you don't find them broken or cracked, you put them back on and go to the next set. And usually I take my wrench and ding on them to see if they have a ring to it. And you go around, you check them all. That one doesn't ring, so we'll start with this one. Now these should be very tight. And you want to take them off, and these have a big square washer on the outside, plus a aluminum washer, and then a washer on the inside. You want to make sure you put these washers back in the same position that they came off. And we guessed right, because see, you have a washer, a square washer, and here's your spring. It came apart in 2 pieces. It should look like this, but this one already had a crack in it, and it came apart in 2 pieces. So that is your bad spring. So you'd want to replace it with a new spring, and you'd have another washer, and then you have these big thick washers on the main bolts. So when you're putting this back together, these are a little bit different because one bolt goes in this way and one comes in from this way from the other base. So you want to just put one together. You want to keep these orientated. Start one, get one started, then you can start your other one. Make sure all your square washers stay even. Really tighten these up. So I said, make sure these square washers all stay lined up. Once that's tight, that sounds a lot different now. So to reassemble this, just turn it back over. First you put this in place, put all 10 washers back together and bolts. Okay, now we got our sheet metal cover all back on. You want to put your top plate back on. You want to put your bowl back on. Get that cleaned up. Line that up to where your track's going to go. You want to wait until you put that back on the machine, but then you can tighten that up. And so that ends our video today on feeder base repair and fixing broken springs. We covered the oldest, first generation, and the more current, newest generation. This is a quick, easy fix that can get you back up and running. So that's Rob Snyder from Gripnail, and thanks for watching.